So I'm here today to talk to you about monetizing your app with Mopub. What does that actually really mean? So in Asia, I know that the market is very different when you think about Asia compared to the US market, compared to the UK and Europe. And the difference really is in-app purchases, which is one of the challenges we have in Asia when we actually talk to app developers about monetizing their apps through ads. And so the question we usually get is, why ads? Well, I have a couple of answers for that. The first one is that apps are slightly different when you think about the way that we engage with them. We don't necessarily engage with apps from our market. If I'm based in Singapore, I'm not just looking at Singapore apps. I'm looking at worldwide apps. I'm looking across different app markets. So what we've seen in Asia more so than anywhere is that we have, as app developers, users outside of Asia. So if you have users in Asia who are monetizing through in-app purchases, then necessarily if you have an export audience, you may want to start serving ads. So we have some information for you that gives you an overview in terms of exactly how that functions out. So looking behind me, you can see statistics taken from the Mopub platform. And those statistics show you 2013, looking at December, what type of percentage were brand advertisers. So remember the days where we used to see those horrible banner ads, those ads that had those smiley faces? No longer are we seeing those types of ads. We're actually seeing branded advertiser ads. Then if you look at 2014's number, just look at the comparison in the last two slots, and you can effectively see that we've gone from 25% in 2013 to 52% in 2014. So that tells you that brand advertisers really are engaged with in-app audiences, which is tremendous. And remember that I said to you that we were thinking about smiley faces and banners and emoticons 5 years ago for mobile advertising? No longer are they ugly. Ads can be beautiful. If you look behind me, you can clearly see that those ads actually make you want to click on the banner or on the interstitial to get some more information. So branded advertisers are keen to get into in-app inventory. And obviously, just showing you the slide before, you can realize that that means, as publishers, we are seeing higher eCPMs come on into our exchange. So publishers usually ask me, the biggest challenge I have is understanding how to show my ads, when to show my ads, what type of ads to show. That we can help you with. We can work with you to define your ideal ad strategy. And that ideal ad strategy can be across different types of ad units, right? Let's take, for example, you may have a game that has the ability to show the bottom screen. You may want to put an available ad slot right at the bottom, which is a banner ad. Or you may have a game which finishes, and then you get to the next level. You may then want to show a full screen ad or a video ad or even an incentivized video ad to get that user to get to the next level. So Mopub really gives you flexibility, and it gives you control in understanding and defining your ad strategy. So what is Mopub? First and foremost, we're a full stack solution. So that basically means we help you from one point right to the other point. And that essentially means we give you, as publishers, the control, the flexibility, and the canvas and analytics to define and continually define your strategy. So that encompasses working with the ad networks. So you are not compelled to work with specific ad networks. You can work with any ad networks. You can bring them onto our exchange and work with them and ourselves. We're a true, transparent yield management platform. You can also work with direct advertisers. So that means as you grow as a business and as you start scaling, you can actually bring in your direct advertisers. And lastly, You can work with the Mopub marketplace. The Mopub marketplace is the largest ad exchange for in-app inventory in the world currently. And that means that you get 160 different bidders, and we're adding more, to continually buy your inventory. And those DSPs or bidders essentially aggregate advertisers to buy demand from your type of inventory. And that can be any type of inventory, right? It can be in-app, it can be mobile web. In-app is what we're known for, and that's what gives you the higher eCPMs. So essentially, by having the ad networks, the direct advertisers, and Mopub Marketplace all through one platform, you can truly manage the yield through Mopub. And that's what we're here to talk to you about, is essentially thinking about how we help you define your strategy when it comes to revenue monetization. So behind me, you can see, I call this the wall of opportunity, and I'll explain why I call it the wall of opportunity. You may think of it as the wall of apps. Here, you can clearly see we've got thousands of apps that actually work with us. Some of them you'll probably note, at least the cat one. I'm sure most of you will know Tomcat. So what we're saying is we have thousands of apps on Mopub that actually give us billions of impressions, and they make millions of dollars for our app developers. So that's thousands of apps, billions of impressions, making millions of dollars for our app developers, which is why we're the largest app exchange in the world. That's why I call it the wall of opportunity. I did this talk in Seoul and in Bangalore, and I think we had over 300 people who are app developers, all the way from indies to the large companies. And what I mentioned there was statistically, one person, at least one app developer in that room, was going to have an app that blows up, at least one, statistically. And what was interesting was, you don't know who that's going to be. It could be an indie developer, it could be a large company, or it could even be a small team. Let's think about Dong, who sits in Vietnam, and Flappy Bird. Nobody in their right mind knew at the time that that was going to be an app that blows up. So when we talk about revenue monetization, publishers need to be aware that they could have an app that goes from 0 to hero. And with that in mind, you have to think about the opportunity and the maximization of that opportunity. Be ready, because you won't know. And if you're having app users who are sitting outside of Asia who don't buy in-app inventory, then you need to realize that that is an opportunity that you can scale. And that's what we're talking about. So let me give you an example. Does anybody know this icon? It's by a company called Ettermax, and the app is Trivia Crack. Now, Trivia Crack essentially is a Trivial Pursuit game, which allows you to compete with your phone and try and get to a certain level. When you do get to a certain level, you then get the privilege of competing with peers or friends in your circle who can then ask questions. So you're always scaling that growth. And this game in particular had a social element into it. So when we think about how they work with us, Ettermax has been with us for about 18 months, and this game was just exploded into the marketplace. So they were ready. So you can see that there's an available ad slot right at the bottom of the game. Now, in that available ad slot, an ad call is made every 45 seconds into the Mopub server. That ad call, or what we call an ad request, has a certain amount of information that helps define the value of that ad call. So what does that mean? That essentially means bits of information that give an approximation to a bidder of what the value is. So the approximation could be the handset type, it could be the category type, it could also be the type of game or the type of time of day, anything. So these types of information allow you to then define, as an advertiser, the potential value of that impression. That then goes into the Mopub marketplace, and then a little bit of magic happens where the ad impression is then defined in terms of a value. Now, in this particular scenario, Etamax worked with a number of ad networks. And those ad networks, let's take them here as 1, 2, and 3, had an approximate value for this impression. So 1 was at $1.40, network 2 was at $1, and network 3 was at 72 cents. Now, concurrently with that, so in other words, at the same time, it made an ad call also to the Mopub marketplace. And in that marketplace, out of the 160 plus different bidders, only 3 came back for this particular ad impression. Those 3 that came back gave a different value. One valued it at $1.90, one bidder 2 valued at $1.50, and bidder 3 at $1.10. So you can see what type of magic is happening now. Essentially, we're putting all of that demand sources together, and then we're defining through our full stack solution who is giving the most money. And quite clearly, the system then looks at it and notices that that would obviously be bidder 1 at $1.90. So Mopub then sends that information back into its ad stack and then starts processing the ad to be shown in the relevant slot. That, what you witness today, is actually real-time bidding. Of course, it took me some time to get there, but all of this happens within 300th of a millisecond. And that's happening continually for every ad call, ad request that happens. So we have gone from this spectacular journey where we've gone from an ad request being made on a device to the decisioning process, which is the ad request information, to the auction process, which goes through Mopub, and of course, right to the end, which shows the ad. All of that is done in 300th of a millisecond, billions of times a day. So, speaking on from Etamax's success story was really interesting. So their game Trivia Crack absolutely exploded the iOS US App Store. It was #1, and it remained #1 for the longest period of time for any game. This was an absolutely amazing feat for Etamax and Trivia Crack in particular. And what was interesting is that if you are going to devise a game, think about the potential of the explosion, what we call that opportunity. Because if you don't engage with an ad network, all these 160 plus bidders or anybody else, or direct advertiser, you lose the opportunity and you actually face an opportunity gap. So let me give you an understanding of what that actually means. So you can clearly see here, this is information taken from October all the way to the 31st of December. 26th of November, you can clearly see there was an upshot, an absolute explosion in terms of the impressions that were served. We went from 250 million impressions to just over 2 billion impressions. And of course, the revenue correlates with that. So when you're thinking about your app, and you're thinking about the user acquisition, and you're thinking about the in-app purchases, if you're lucky enough to get that, remind yourselves that you are also going to make some revenue from the ads. So be prepared for that growth, because it can happen quickly. The other thing that seems to be a challenge for many of the app developers is understanding when and where and how to put the ad. Where should I put the ad? If you're a game, it's a little bit easier because you can put it at the end of that particular game. You can put it at the end of a particular level. You have an opportunity to be able to work with the user engagement. But if you're not a game, and let's say you're a news feed, then it's a little challenging. You may want to just keep it as a banner ad or have a native ad show up within the feed so that it looks like it's part of the actual app. So there are different ways that you can think about this. We're here to help you to find the right balance moment where you do not upset the user engagement, but you're actually monetizing at the same time. And it can be an art, but once you get there, that's when you really hit that sweet spot. Mediation. So remember I talked to you about the fact that we are a SSP to some degree as well as an ad exchange. We manage and help you manage your yield. So mediation is essentially connecting all of that to multiple ad networks to increase the overall advertising revenue. And how do we do that? We actually let you work with many ad networks, and you can bring in some of your own ad networks through our mediation. We're open source RTB. We allow you to do this. Now, that means that you will be working with the likes of Millennial, Vungle, AdMob, DFP, many of them. So when that happens, and why should it happen? So let's take a look at this world map. In this particular case, let's take Ethermax having just 2 ad networks. This is network 1, and they've given varying price points for the different countries, right? You can clearly see here, North America's at $1.58. We're looking at LATAM market at 57 cents, and so forth. If you bring another ad network, you're going to see different price points, because some ad networks are stronger in some markets versus others. So you should bring on more ad networks. In fact, we encourage you to. Competition is healthy, and it allows you to maximize the revenue per the user in a specific country. So by bringing this in, you can then evangelize and understand the value of a true user according to multiple ad networks. Native ads. This is basically ads that match the look and feel of a particular app. These may not apply to games, but they may also apply to games. It depends on the type of game that you've had. We have an app developer in Singapore that have encompassed the native ad into the actual game. So as you're walking around and shopping for various goods, you may be able to see a banner that's within a creative that allows you to see a native ad. So we have seen this with games, but we've also seen this with different types of app developers, right? Let's look here. Now, native ads need to at least have a few of these essential pieces of information. So the icon image, the text, the title, the main image, and of course, the most important, the call to action. So when you have these different parameters, you can almost go in and change the look and the feel. What do I mean by that? Well, look at this. This is a messenger app. We've taken basically those elements of native ads and put them into a messenger app to make it look and feel like it's part of the app. And you can further see this when we look at this Reddit feed. You can see that we've again taken 3 parts of the native ads and actually encompassed them to the look and the feel of this particular app. So it almost feels like it's native. It doesn't look like it's unfamiliar to the app user. Again, we're back to the full stack solution. So essentially, just in summary, to give you an understanding, Mopub is the largest in-app exchange in the world. We allow you to work with multiple ad networks within the region, outside of the region. We allow you also through our enterprise class ad serving to have direct advertisers which you can prioritize over the ad networks or over the Mopub marketplace to win the inventory. So we are very flexible. We give you control. So if if you don't want to have specific game advertisers advertising in your app, we give you that control. You can whitelist or blacklist certain types of categories. We allow you to have direct advertisers, and of course we bring you the Mopub marketplace. When you put all of this together, we give you a full stack solution that helps you win the revenue that you should deserve and help you concentrate on building your apps. Thank you very much.